Welcome, welcome to the Tell Me That Story show. And today we are covering Sufi stories. Isa is taking over main chat duties, and we have us as a special guest directly from the road. We're keeping him company. How are you both doing? Everything okay?
Yeah, just trying to figure out my lighting situation. How you doing?
Really well. Isa, how about
On,
you? How
on,
are you?
I'm excellent, thank you.
All right. Today we had a little impromptu stream from the road with us. We were just making up for the fact that the debate review of Witset's latest debate got postponed until Friday, I think. So we just hopped on a stream and had a little bit of banter with the audience. We did a brief summary of the debate and covered a bunch of other topics. It was an interesting stream as usual. And now we are going to discuss. Isa's going to tell us a few Sufi stories. Could you give us a brief summary before we get actually started on what these stories are, where they're from, and what they are?
I'd love to. Okay, I'm actually going to read from a physical book.
Awesome.
So, this teacher, it's funny, I'm in the same place where I had the conversation with Mr. Matt Dillahunty, and I actually brought up this teacher. His name
Uh-huh.
is Sheikh Mohammed Rahim Bawa Muhyiddin, also known as Bawa. A quick summary is he was an ancient sage from Sri Lanka, who taught students from all different kinds of spiritual backgrounds and different ethnic backgrounds, and he taught uh, he taught good qualities, and he taught how to be a good person. That's kind of like in a nutshell about who this person is. He had a center or an ashram in Sri Lanka, and he came here in the 70s, like during that period of time. So he taught wisdom. So I think that's like a very simple way of putting it. And this type of book, he has a couple books. He has a lot of books, but this book is a book of children's stories. But they're very interesting children's stories, as you'll soon see. I'm going to be reading one particular story, and we'll see how far we can go with that. But it's like it's like an epic that has multiple parts. So
All right.
it's going to be interesting. And I'll show pictures
is,
too, so you'll see pictures within this story.
Oh, perfect.
is this where a lot of inspiration came from for Dune? Because I remember like seeing a lot of quotes in there from like Sufi like stuff. I'm just curious. So
Correct. Dune is completely influenced by Sufism. Frank Herbert was influenced, and so was Star Wars. I brought that up actually in my debate with Apostate Prophet, and people were kind of laughing. They're like, "Why are you bringing up Dune and Star Wars?" Because I'm like, if you think these things are just abject and just devoid of any things of value, why would you? Why would these brilliant writers use them within their stories? And these are the protagonists. They use the characteristics of
yeah.
these traditions with their protagonists. So we can't just throw the baby out with the bathwater. But people
Well,
seem to get that argument. But that was the point that I was making.
well, George Lucas stole it from Frank Herbert. Just to be,
Oh, that's fine.
there was a lawsuit over it. There was actually a lawsuit over that. Frank
Really?
Herbert sued George Lucas. Yeah. I don't think they won, but yeah. The sand people and and the Fremen, the big giant worm in one of the scenes, the
The
big
Sarlacc.
tractor things. Yeah. Desert world, desert planet. Yeah.
That makes sense.
But anyways, I don't want to. Yeah.
No problem. And I think that that's the thing. Islamic mysticism and all these types of things, they have an influence and they have an impact and they have value. So this story is interesting because even though these are children's stories, there's a lot of, how do we say, adult content. And you'll see in the story that I've particularly chosen. I have chosen. So this is the book. I'm going to show you all the pictures of the book. And here is the teacher, as you could saw in the cover. His name is Bawa. And this is like the cover of the book. There's an explanation of that, where there's different birds and So you have a table of contents, and the story we're choosing is story 51, The Four Disciples.
You should make Issa bigger so you can see his
Yes.
photos.
How can we do that? No, that's me.
There you go.
There. No. Hold on. I'll put him on like this, and I'll see if I can create a new one.
You can create one. Yeah.
I'm sure I have the right story here.
He can create one while you're talking, Issa. I just thought it would be easier for the audience to see what you're showing.
Oh, cool. Thank you. Yeah, I'm trying to get exactly the right story that I wanted. Give me 1 second. I believe it's here.
And let me put also us over here. There we go. Now we can even increase it a little bit more.
Cool.
And also, you haven't been on the Tell Me That Story show, but remember that at the end of the story, we ask for a dedication. So keep that in mind. Who you would like to dedicate this tonight's chat to, so we don't catch you off guard with that, because it's
Okay.
it can put you on the spot if you have to think of a dedication on the go. And tomorrow we are having a watch party. I haven't scheduled it yet, but I will get to that right after this show. Us is debating on whether the arc is possible. Let me actually get the correct title for the debate. Could Noah's Ark have worked? So I think it's going to be short and sweet. We'll see what the opponent brings to the table when it comes to the debate. But I think it's an easy debate to have for us. I'm pretty sure. So we'll
I've been
see.
watching the Arc Encounter videos on YouTube just to see what their arguments are now. They get the number of animals wrong. They say there's only 40,000 different type of land animals. I'm like, where do you get that from? It's like millions.
Millions, yeah. And the ones that have gone extinct, it's a lot. And Ashton, yes, we're going to do the full shebang, the pre-show, the watch party, and the after show all in one go, as we are starting to do when Oz has a debate. So that tomorrow, the debate starts at 8 p.m. Eastern. So we're going to be starting the stream at 7:15 Eastern. So stay tuned.
And I'll be on the beach.
Ashton says,
I'll be on the...
Ask why God didn't provide metal to make a better arc.
Well, that's my argument. I'm going to be on the Atlantic ocean for the arc debate. Appropriate place. Well, I'm going to try to get them to change the debate to talk about the mythos behind arc stories and how important that archetypical story is, and why we should care about the archetypical stories of the arc, which this is appropriate for Tell Me That Story, right? And I think that archetypical story, those lessons to learn are more important than is there a naturalistic explanation for the actual story itself in the Old Testament. Which there isn't. There's no way that ship could have been seaworthy at that size. the methods we had for the material that was recommended would never have worked. Now, those methods would have worked for smaller ships that weren't like going out into major storms. Let's just say our best naval ships that we build today would not have survived that level of storm, let alone that made out of that material. And if it took 100 years to build it, the material would have rotted away before they even finished. Like, it's just, anyways, doesn't matter. But I think it's more important to talk about the archetypical story. And interrupt me whenever you're ready, Issa. I don't want to interrupt your story, but the archetypical story is more important than the story itself, I think.
Remember, you promised me to at least bring up in passing, and I will be happy, the poop problem. If you do that, I will be happy.
Well, there's a water problem. There's the cleaning and maintenance and the number of people.
Don't say it like that. Say poop problem, please. I beg you.
Poop problem.
Yes. What to do with the poop of a bunch of animals cooped up in a ship?
Yeah.
Because no one thinks about that regularly. Go ahead, sorry.
No, I could come up with comedic little terms like the poop problem, what's the one for the food? We could think of the hangry problem, the hangry lion problem.
Yeah.
Hangry, right? Not the hungry, or the angry, but the hangry lion problem. The hangry lion problem, the poopy monkey problem. Then you got the problem like the overheating penguin problem, and
yes.
Then all types of problems.
How to get the animals from Australia over to the Middle East. And let us know when you're ready so we can stop.
I'm ready. I'm ready.
Oh, all right. So Isa is going to give us what's the title of the story?
So I'm actually going to do two stories, hopefully.
Awesome.
I'm going to do one from this book, and then the other one's an ebook. Because, see, the major story I wanted to do is not in this physical book. And that was my problem. I thought it was in this book. It's in the other book. But I'm going to read that one story, and then I'm going to read the other story from the other book. And it's an ebook, so maybe I can present like the pictures from that book. Can I share the screen from here?
Yes.
Great.
Yeah.
So the first book story I'm going to read is called The Four Disciples and Their Wondrous Gifts. So that is page 200. Here we go. So you'll see there's a stylistic kind of motif that goes on here. The four disciples and their four wondrous gifts. My love you, my grandchildren, my sisters and brothers, my sons and daughters. Do you know what it means to be a sheikh? A true sheikh has many children, and it is his job to teach them about man, wisdom, and the qualities of God. One day, after a certain sheikh had been talking to his children, he asked them, "Did you understand what I said?" Some of his disciples nodded their heads. Others said, "Oh, yes." Some lowered their eyes and looked at the ground. Some openly admitted they did not understand, while others just sat there slumped over and sound asleep. But there was one disciple who kept thinking, "I want the power the sheikh has. I want to do what he does and become a great man." That was all he could think about. Time went by, and the sheikh continued speaking to his disciples. Some of them listened very carefully to his words. Some adopted his qualities. Some progressed in wisdom, others in their actions, and others in the path of duty. Like this, they were learning in many different ways, progressing in their lives, and drawing closer and closer to Allah. This one disciple, however, only progressed in arrogance and egoism. He could think of only one thing. I want to become a sheikh. I want that power. He did not want the wisdom. He only wanted the title. This one disciple, however, only progressed in arrogance and egoism. He could think of only one thing. I want to become a sheikh. I want that power. He did not want wisdom, he only wanted the title. The sheikh observed this disciple's state of mind and saw that his actions were not sincere. He knew the disciple was trying to trick him in order to obtain what he wanted. If this attitude continues much longer, the sheikh thought, it will lead him to hell. Then one day the disciple asked him, "Oh, my father, my sheikh, through what power do you do all this?" The sheikh is a teacher, by the way, spiritual teacher.
Yes, I was going to ask you.
I was going to say, yeah, let me explain what a sheikh is. It's a spiritual teacher. So it's not like the sheikh who has a lot of money. It's a person who has, who's like a person who has wisdom. Power, the sheikh replied. There is a power that dawns in the place where there is no I. It is the fruit of wisdom that grows in love and ripens in compassion. Starting as a tiny seed, it transforms its color and hue until it changes into the fragrant fruit with the sweet taste of God's qualities. That taste brings sweetness and coolness to the whole body. That power makes the heart, the eyes and the ears, and the whole body unfold and become resplendent. Can I see it? How can I get that power? The disciple asked. You can see it if you change and act according to the wisdom that I have been teaching. You can see that transformation within yourself. You can see that plenitude and light within yourself. When a light shines from within a stone, it is valued as a priceless gem. So too, when the light comes from within you and God resplends, your value will increase and you will be transformed into a God-man. You will no longer see yourself. Everything else will be seen, but the I and the thought of my possessions will have died in you. That power will exist as itself, understanding, seeing, watching everything. Such is that power. Do you understand? Oh, my father, my sheikh, is that what it is like? If I reach that state, what will I be looking at? Will I see you? Each person looks mostly at himself and everything around him. The I always focuses only on the I, and that leads to destruction. So the I is like kind of a personal ego. But if God looks at God, then one finds peace, divine knowledge, or ilm, wisdom, and his qualities. That truly is love, and that fruit of that love is compassion. The taste of compassion is prayer that forms when we love him. The taste of that prayer is to regard all lives as our own. A person in that state will have eliminated the I. Do you understand, my son? Please think about this. Well, I have been studying with you for a very long time, my father. Have you? Have you been studying? What have you learned? What benefit do you expect? Did you study because you wanted something? What do you want? What do you think you need? Children, all of you, please come and listen. My father, I have been studying because I desire to become a sheikh, to see what you see, and to have the wisdom that you experience. Is that why you have been studying? But you have not learned to clear yourself, have you? And what about the rest of you? What have all of you come for? What about you? Or you? Or you? Everyone looked down. Then the sheikh pointed to 3 of his children and to the arrogant disciple. You, come here. Come forward. I have something for you. Look at this beautiful girl. Even though you have been here for a long time, you have never seen her before, have you? She also has been studying and learning. Look at her. Is she like the sun, the moon, and the stars? Is she like the flowers in this world? No, she is even more beautiful. Would you like to marry her? Yes, I want her. Each of the 4 disciples quickly replied. All of you want her. That's fine. But of course, since she is only one person, she cannot marry all 4 of you. Therefore, to show that you are capable of taking care of her responsibly, each of you must go out into the world, buy the most valuable thing you can find, and then return here and show her what you have brought. She will decide which one of you has made the wisest purchase. and that is the one she will marry. However, keep one thing in mind. This child has finished her learning, and she could leave this world very soon, perhaps in 41 days or in 3 months, or possibly in 6 months. The sheikh then gave one bag of gold to each of the 4 disciples, and to the arrogant disciple he said, "After you return, we will see about your desire to be a sheikh." So the 4 disciples began their journey, and they walked along. Each one was thinking, "I must buy something wondrous and rare without letting the others know." And after a few days, the arrogant disciple met a man who had a kettle and a cane for sale. He asked how much they cost. "1 bag of gold," the man answered. "What can they do?" the arrogant disciple asked. "They can bring the dead back to life. If you sprinkle a little water from the kettle over someone who is dead and then tap him with the cane, you can revive him." "Oh, I could bring the dead back to life. This is a wonder. All right, I'll take them." So the arrogant disciple bought the kettle and the cane, and he hid them very carefully. The next disciple met a man with a very special mirror. "What can this mirror do?" he asked. "It can show you all that is happening as far away as 6 months' journey," the man answered. "You can see everything?" "Yes, it will show you anything that you focus your thoughts upon." "This is indeed a very special mirror. How much does it cost?" "1 bag of gold." So the second disciple bought the mirror and hid it very carefully. Then the third disciple met a man who had an amazing chair. "How much does that chair cost?" he asked. "1 bag of gold." The man replied, "What does it do?" "If you sit on this chair, it will carry you wherever you wish. In an instant, you can complete a journey that would normally take 6 months." So that disciple bought the chair with his bag of gold. Finally, the youngest disciple, who had performed his duties with an understanding of the sheikh's qualities, met a man with a pot. "How much is that pot?" he asked. "1 bag of gold," was the reply. "What will it do?" "When you reach into the pot, you can take from it anything you can think of, anything you need. If you think of 18 kinds of curry and rice, they will appear, and you can spoon out as much as you need, enough for 1 person, or for 2, or for many more." "That is truly amazing. There must be nothing else like this in the entire world. All right, I'll buy it." By now, 6 months had passed. All 4 disciples had made their purchases, so they began their journey home. They walked and walked and walked. The disciple who could restore life, the one who could see the world in a mirror, and the one who could travel anywhere in the chair were all unable to find any food. There was not even 1 coin left between them. They still had 6 months' journey ahead of them, and they already half dead from hunger. But the one with the pot wasn't tired at all. He was walking behind the others, and whenever he needed food or water, all he had to do was dip into the pot, and he could take his fill. The other 3 disciples were so exhausted that they were near death. They stopped to rest against the trunk of a tree. After a while, the disciple with the pot came along. "What's the matter?" he asked. "Can't you go on anymore?" "We're all gonna die," they gasped. "We have no water or food." Then they noticed the youngest disciple looked very healthy and happy. "How have you managed to fare so well?" they asked. "Don't worry, I can save you," he said. "I have food and water for you." Then he reached into the pot, scooped out some water. As soon as they took the first sip, they felt a bit relieved. "Now, would you like something to eat?" he asked, and he scooped out 18 varieties of curry and rice. But 2 of the disciples were still too weak to eat, so he had to feed them by hand. After they finished eating and their energy returned, the youngest disciple asked, "Now, may I see the things you bought? You have been hiding them. Here is mine, this pot. This is where your food and water came from. I bought what I needed to survive in the world." The arrogant disciple said, "I bought a kettle and cane, which can restore life to the dead." The second disciple told them, I bought a mirror in which I can see everything within the distance of a 6 months journey. And the third disciple said, I bought a chair which will instantly take me anywhere I wish to go. That's very good, the youngest disciple said. Now, let's think about what we should do next. We all share one purpose. We want to marry that beautiful girl. And all four of us brought valuable things as the sheikh told us to do. Now it is up to the girl to decide which thing is the best. But we don't even know where she is or whether she's alive or dead. That's true, the other disciples agreed. The sheikh said, she might not be in this world much longer. Let's look into the mirror and see. When they looked, they saw that she had already died. This is terrible. We went through so much difficulty, and now she's about to be buried. What can we do? How can we get there in time? We still have 6 months' journey ahead of us. The chair can complete that journey in half a second, said the third disciple. And then I can bring her back to life, exclaimed the disciple with the kettle and the cane. So they all climbed into the chair. Then the one who had bought the chair snapped his fingers, and instantly they found themselves at the cemetery. The grave was already dug, and the people were gathering for the burial. Then the disciple who wanted to be a sheikh stepped forward with his kettle and cane and brought the girl back to life. But no sooner was she revived than the four disciples started fighting. She's mine! She's mine! She's mine! They cried. She wouldn't be alive if I hadn't given her life, so she's mine, said the disciple with the cane. You wouldn't even have known what was happening if you hadn't seen that she had died, said the disciple with the mirror. You would have been too late if I hadn't brought you here, said the disciple of the chair. Ah, yes, but you would all be dead if I hadn't fed you, said the disciple with the pot. And so all four disciples kept on shouting and fighting until finally the girl said, None of you can decide who will marry me. I must decide who brought the wisest gift. Then she took them to a house nearby and instructed them. All four of you are very clever, and you have brought back 4 beautiful things. Soon I will give you my decision, but first I'm going to lie down on this bed. Each of you must stand in different corner of the room, and when I call for you, come and sit around me on all 4 sides. Then I will tell you what I have decided. They all agreed. She lay down, closed her eyes, and seemed to fall asleep. The disciples waited in the 4 corners of the rooms, their hearts pounding. Then after a while she said, All right, now come. The one who restored her to life ran to the bed and sat near her head, staring at her. The two who had bought the mirror and the chair sat down on either side of the bed next to her hands, and the one with the pot sat down at her feet. The 4 of you are very clever, she said. Then she spoke to the disciple who sat at her head. Here's the picture so you all can see. This is the beautiful woman and the disciples. See, isn't that cool? You learn to give life to others, but you did not learn how to save your own life. You wanted power. You wanted to become a sheikh, but you did not understand that in order to do so, you must first transform yourself. You did not understand the sheikh's beauty, his form, his qualities, or his actions. You did not understand his state. You only wanted power. It is true that a real sheikh might have the power to restore life to the dead, and you have acquired that power for yourself. But what of use was it to you? You almost died sitting under the tree. How can you save the lives of others if you are dead? Therefore, what you have learned is useless. Please, sit down. Then she addressed the disciple who had bought the mirror. You who have studied yoga and learned how to fly through your mind. You can perform miracles and read horoscopes. You can even look into that mirror and see whatever you wish. But you haven't even learned to look at yourself. One who has not seen himself cannot see God or the beauty of God. You would have known who I really was if you had seen yourself. But you did not look at me in the right way. You were looking at the world. And you wanted to continue looking at the world through this mirror. You were able to see anything in the outside world in a second, but you were unable to see what must be seen within yourself with every breath. This mirror represents the world, but what is the use of looking at the world with the world? What is the use of looking at me? Look at yourself. Understand yourself. Then she addressed the man on her left side. What have you attained? She asked. You bought the chair which represents the four elements. By using the energies of earth, air, fire, and water, you can go wherever you want on this four-legged chair. This belongs to hell and to the world. The mind can journey faster than this chair can travel, but you have not learned that. You think you attained a high state, but you are just riding upon the four elements. You think that owning this chair is a great achievement, but it is only a connection to hell. In order to find the power that can take you even faster than the speed of the mind, you must acquire God's qualities and wisdom. They go very fast, faster than the speed of light. Only if you obtain these can you go beyond all the magic tricks of illusion and leave hell behind. Finally, she spoke to the disciple at her feet. You are a good man. You spent your money well when you bought this pot. You learned to take care of yourself and others. Like the pot, you have everything you need within yourself. Your heart is a pot that God has made. Reach into your innermost heart, take everything you need, and then satisfy the needs of others. All the treasures of Allah are within the pot of your heart. The grace of God, the peace of God, tranquility and serenity. When you have an intention, if you use your wisdom and your qualities and your actions, and if you use your hand of absolute faith, certitude, and determination, the hand of Iman, which is faith, you can receive everything you need in full plenitude. Because you have attained this state, you are the worthiest one. Without you, the others would have died. Again, she spoke to the other disciples one by one. Even though you can restore life with your cane and kettle, and even though you could see the world in your mirror, and even though you can go anywhere instantly in your chair, all three of you would be dead without him. You were all saved because of his pot. This man can save himself and others. He is the worthiest, and I will marry him. The one who can restore life will be a father to me. Those at my sides will be my brothers. But the one who can save himself and others will be my bridegroom and my student. Then the beautiful girl disappeared, and the sheikh appeared in her place. He said, Now you are my student and my bridegroom. You are the most worthy of all my students. You have love for me, and I have love for you in my heart. Then the sheikh addressed all the disciples. My children, you must study this state and realize this is wisdom. Anyone intoxicated by my beauty will intoxicate me with his beauty. One who embraces me with his beauty is like a bridegroom to me. One who has established a connection to my heart and is able to save himself and others is a student to me. This is what the state of a true disciple must be. If you do not achieve this state, whatever you study will be useless and dangerous. Even if you can restore life, even if you could see all over the world, even if you can learn to travel by the means of the elements, what good are all these tricks if you cannot save yourself? Study your own state. If you love your sheikh in your heart, you will be his student. If you embrace him there, you will be a bridegroom to that beauty. In that state, the sheikh is a woman. He is the beauty, and he is the one who gives you your beauty. He is also a man and a father. He is the qualities. He is wisdom. Everything is within him. He is a pot from which you can take everything you need and thus end your tiredness. Then you can save yourself and others. This is what you must do. And to the arrogant disciple who wanted to be a sheikh, he said, Now, do you understand? Establish that state. Everything else is useless. My love you, my grandchildren, think about this. When you are with the sheikh, your father of wisdom, you must imbibe his qualities and actions. Then you will be able to save yourself and end the tiredness of others. Do you understand? This is the point of the story. Amin. May God's wisdom, the wealth of his qualities, the wealth of divine knowledge, the wealth of all God's treasures be given to you. May your arrogance leave you, and may the peace of equality come to you. Amin. Amin. So that is the story of the four disciples and their treasures. And that's what it says here. You were all saved because of this pot. This man can save himself and others. He's the worthiest, and I will marry him. So I'm going to ask you two, who will you dedicate this story to?
I I think I will go with because I got a very strong feeling of A Tale of the 1001 Nights. So I'm going to dedicate this to Sherazad and her sister Dunyazad, who saved a lot of people. And that will be my dedication today. And those, who would you like to dedicate this to?
The arrogance of prideful youth that believe they know more than the people that have lived a life. And but there is some truth to that. Sometimes new generations can breathe life into the old with new ideas. So the older generations do need to sometimes reflect upon new ideas. But I would think, in that regard, sometimes the wisdom requires that we need to reflect on old ideas. So I would dedicate it to the arrogant youth.
Okay, thank you so much. And you, Isa?
What I'm going to dedicate it to is the concept of the focus of self-service, where if you the only way you can heal others is to heal yourself. You can't be able to feed others, and you can't do anything in the world if you don't have take care of yourself. So you can have all the imaginations, all the wishes in the world, but if you don't take care of yourself, you're not going to be able to take care of anyone.
Mm-hmm. Very, very interesting. And before we continue, Catherine says that she likes the voices, and I told her that you're a master at storytelling, and she said he's brilliant.
Well, thank you, thank you. I deeply appreciate that.
So for the next story, are you sure we have enough time?
We can read some of it, and then maybe at some point
Okay.
we can read more. It's not that long. I'm actually just trying to buy the ebook because I want the full story, but they're giving me a little bit of trouble because I was trying to use one account, but it was not working, and just it's a little bit of exhausting. So if you give me just
But
uh-huh.
yeah, yeah, we can leave it for the next. But there's maybe we can touch upon the influences. It's very similar in style to the writing of the Book of 1001 Nights. I thought that was very, very interesting. And also I wanted to ask you, uh, so girl was the teacher the whole time, and what does that mean?
Sure. Um, so what does like the story mean? So
Hmm.
basically the point is, and you can tell this is sort of like a guy thing too. It's an interesting theme that we see with men, that men are desiring to have a female companion. This is kind of something that is gives value to the man in a sense, and that they need to have this companion. But the truth is, what the people are looking for is wisdom. It's not about getting a woman. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
That was kind of the incentive, because like for the man, they're like, I got to get a lady. You know what I mean? Like you'll see that in all kinds of movies. It's a very common cliche and theme that you see in lots of storytelling, is that men want women. I don't know how else to put
Hmm.
it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Of course, that's through definitely a heteronormative lens, but that's the thing. Men want women, so that's definitely a kind of this draw that comes. So that's the situation. I think I got the book, so we could read just a little bit because there's a lot of parts to it. So I think if
Okay.
we kind of started, I just bought the ebook, so I had to use another email, so that was the issue, but we're there. Okay, here we go. And this is from the other book, so we're actually reading from both books. This is called
Awesome.
this is called My Love You, My Children. The other one was called Come to the Secret Garden. So I'm gonna go right there. All right, here we go. Let's see. I'll share the picture when we get there.
All right.
Because there's multiple stories in this. So, yes, I just bought the book, so we have the whole book. And I am going to go to... Because the other, it cut off, and that's why I'm like, I just need to buy the physical. Okay, this one, it's another 4. 4 is an interesting number. This story is called The 4 Palace Guards and Their Advice to the King. Can I share the screen?
Yes.
Okay, share screen.
Oh, Shifty Eyes Shady says, good luck on the journey. Saint Anthony, the patron saint of travelers, may follow you.
Oh, that's nice.
Thank you. I've been a traveler my whole life. I've lived all over the country, been all over the world, Navy, lived all 4 corners of the United States. And says a lot because the United States is pretty big.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say all 4 corners, I mean Washington State, California, Maine, and Florida, and lots of states in between. And when I say live, I mean more than a year, more than 2 years, more than 3 years in every one of those states. Or like 5 or more years in every one of those states.
Very interesting.
Here it goes. I got it. All right, I think I'll have
All right.
to share. Can you see the screen? Can you see?
Yes, I can see the screen, and let me put it like that. No.
To me, it looks like this big. So
Yes.
that's good
Hold
because
on.
I'm driving. With my autopilot.
All right, so you can kind of see. I'm scrolling. So this is the first picture, okay?
Yep.
All right, I'm going to start the book. All right, the 4 palace guards and their advice to the king. How 4 boys became palace guards. Once upon a time, in a certain country, a poor man had a son who was sent away to school to study astrology. In another country, the son of another poor man was also sent away from home to study the very subtle art of archery. In a third country, the son of another poor man was sent to school to learn how to restore life after death. And in a fourth country, the son of still another poor man was sent away to study wisdom, to learn how to look through the mirror of wisdom. The 4 boys studied these 4 different things, passed their exams, finished their schooling, and returned to their parents. Each one told his parents, even though we are poor, now that I have passed my exams, I can get a job to help us. Then we will have the money to buy anything we need. Each one said this to his parents, and they left home in search of a job. The 4 boys walked along until they finally all met at a crossroad where the 4 paths intersected. They became friends immediately and began asking each other where they were going. All 4 said they were from poor families and were looking for a job. What did you study? The first boy asked one of the others. I studied astrology. What did you study? I studied wisdom. I can discover what is inside anything. I can find out what everything is all about. What have you studied? I have studied archery. I can split a tree in half. I can split a rock in half. I can split anything in 2 with my arrow. What have you studied? I can restore life to something that has died. If a tree is split in half, I can make it whole. If a bird is split in half, I can bring it back to life and make it a whole again. If someone's head has been cut off, I can put it back on and again restore the person's life. All 4 agreed that their learning was very useful. And we could see in this picture here, what's kind of cool is we see all the 4 disciplines of where they're coming from. So that's a kind of a cool situation. And here we go. And therefore they could be help to one another. So they set off together looking for jobs. After a while, they stopped by a pond to drink some water. And they thought, let us test each other and see if what we have told one another is true. Then said the astrologer, can you tell us what is in that tree? Yes, yes, I can, the astrologer answered. All right, what is in that tree? Well, there should be a bird and 3 trees, he replied. Then they asked the archer, can you split that tree in half? Of course I can split it in half, said the archer. Next, they asked the boy who had studied wisdom, can you tell us exactly where they are in that tree? Can you pinpoint where they are? Yes, the nest is in the hole right below the topmost branch, replied the boy. That is where the bird laid its 3 eggs, and they are hatching right now. So they invited the archer to split the tree in half, split the bird in half, and split each egg in half. And he did. With one arrow, he sliced the eggs in half, split the bird in 2, and cut the tree right down in the middle. Then they asked the boy who had studied restoring life to the dead to put them back together. Can you do that? Can you put the tree and the mother bird back together and make the baby birds fly? Yes, yes, I can, he replied. And he put the tree and the mother bird and the baby birds back together, and they all flew away. So the 4 boys agreed they indeed learned what they had claimed to have learned. We can all definitely find jobs, they assured each other, and once again they set out on their journey. They walked along, and soon they came upon a sandy pathway. The sides of the path were level, but the road itself was bumpy. They looked at the sand and could see a horse had ridden by that way. The astrologer said, Look, a horse must have come this way. It looks as though he is blind in one eye. The next boy said, Why, it looks like as if he is missing 2 of his teeth. And the next boy said, Yes, and he also seems to be lame in one leg. Well, that might be so, said the 4th boy, but I can see that he has a short tail. A man was following them, and he overheard them describing this horse. Now this man knew that the king's horse was missing, and their conversation convinced him that they had stolen it. So the man captured the 4 boys and brought them to the king. First, they were taken before the king's ministers, who began questioning them. Where is the horse? Where is the horse? Where is the king's horse? The king's men began beating them. But the 4 boys insisted, We have not taken any such horse. We have not done anything to the king's horse. We have never even seen it. If that is so, said the ministers, then how did you know it was blind? The first boy then replied, It is a sandy road, and the good grass is growing on both sides, but the horse has only eaten grass from the left side and none from the right. So I concluded that he must be blind in one eye, the right eye. Well, that is logical, said the ministers. But how did you know he was missing two of which the boy said 2 of its teeth. Which boy said 2 of its teeth were missing? I did, said the boy. I could see an animal had been grazing on the grass, but there was a space where some of the grass was still left behind, a space that seemed large enough for 2 teeth. The grass on either side was eaten, but some was left in the middle. Therefore, I concluded that 2 of the horse's teeth were missing. Next, the ministers asked the 3rd boy, How did you know that it was lame in one leg? He replied, 3 of its feet made a deep impression in the sand, but the 4th made only a light impression. Therefore, I concluded that it was lame in one leg. Finally, they asked the 4th boy, How did you know that it had a short tail? Well, said the 4th boy, if it had a long tail, it would have dragged the sand everywhere, but its tail left marks only where the road went up, not where it went down. Therefore, I concluded that it had a short tail. The ministers told the king all about these 4 boys. Why, these 4 boys are very clever," exclaimed the king. "They deducted everything correctly. They did not even see the horse, just its footprints and marks left by the tail. I need advisors like these boys. They can be guards at my palace. I hereby appoint these four boys to be my palace guards." And this is how they became the four watchmen at the king's palace. The watchman who concluded the horse was blind in one eye learns the king's fate. So this is part one of the story, or part two of the story. Now, one day the king decided to go out hunting. He called the four watchmen and some of his soldiers together, and they all set out on their hunt. When they were far enough away from the castle, they spread out and began searching for animals. But the watchman, who had concluded the horse was blind in one eye, became separated from the rest of the hunting party. He was all alone when he heard the sound of a girl crying in the jungle. He wondered what could be wrong, and he went to investigate. Soon he came upon the temple, and a girl was inside crying very loudly. He remained outside and called, "Who is crying? Please come out and tell me what is wrong." "Can you write my problems?" she sobbed bitterly. "Can you help me? You cannot possibly help me. So why should I tell you what is wrong? Oh, could you help me?" "Even if it costs my life, I will try to help you," he replied quietly. "I will help you as much as I possibly can. Please tell me. I will try my very best to help you." His kindness made her feel a little better. "Oh, since you say you are prepared to give up your life to help me, I will tell you," she sobbed, and she tried to explain her difficulty. "Do not tell anyone what I am about to say," she began, and then she started to tell her story. "There is a very just king nearby who is really devoted to God. He does believe in God, and even though he is so just, he is in grave danger. He might even die, and I'm very distressed about this." "What danger is confronting him?" asked the boy. "When the king cut down a part of the forest to start a farm, a black cobra got in his way, and he cut it to pieces with his sword. The blood of that snake splattered on the crop that is being harvested today. They are going to cook the first meal of the harvest and feed it to the king. The snake's poison is concentrated in that first morsel of the food, and whoever eats it will die. Since the king will be the first one to eat, he will die. This is why I'm so troubled. If he does not eat that first handful of food, he will escape. But even so, the son of the black cobra is planning vengeance. He has a plan to get back at the king." "What is the plan?" asked the watchman. "If the king escapes the poisoned handful of food, 3 weeks later the son of the black cobra will bite the king and the queen at 9 o'clock at night. That is the danger awaiting the king, and he will not be able to escape it. He must die. The only way he might escape is with the help of a person who has absolute integrity. Do not tell anyone I told you the story. I was warned that if I revealed this to anyone, that person's head would be split into 1,000 pieces. If you tell this story to anyone else, your head will split into 1,000 pieces." "Well then," said the boy, "if my head does split apart, then what can be done? Is there any remedy for it?" "Yes, there is. The firstborn child of the king must have his throat slit. The blood must be put on that man's shattered head, and it will be made whole again. And then, because of God's love, once the man's head is made whole, the child will also come back to life. But remember, anyone who reveals this will have his head split into 1,000 pieces. Now, I must go." When the boy realized he was alone, he ran and ran as fast as he could back to the palace to get there before the king began to eat. He arrived just as the king was about to put the first morsel of food into his mouth. The watchman ran up to him and pleaded, "Oh, king, I'm starving. I'm famished. Please give me the first bite." I'm famished. Please give me the first bite of food. For clarity's sake, please give me the first bite. And the king was very gracious, gave him the first bite. The boy quietly put the poisoned food into a coconut shell and placed it to one side without anyone noticing. Later, he took it away and hid it under the bed of his room. 3 weeks went by, and the night arrived on which the cobra's son was to kill the king and the queen. It was 15 minutes before 9. And knowing what was to occur, the boy arranged to be on the first watch. The king and the queen were asleep in their bed, and the boy with the sword in hand crept slowly into their room. He stood there very quietly, watching carefully. Soon he saw the snake slither down the chain of the lamp and onto the canopy over the bed. As soon as the snake came within reach, he struck it and cut it in half. One piece of the snake fell to one side of the bed and one to the other side. He brushed them both away. Then he noticed a drop of blood had fallen onto the queen's chest. It was a very terrible poison. If that poison went into her bloodstream, she would die. So he wiped it off with his little finger. Then he had to cut the tip of his finger off immediately, so he wouldn't be poisoned either. At this moment, the queen woke up. Startled, she exclaimed, "What do you want? Why did you come in here?" Nothing. Everything is all right. Nothing is wrong." Their talking awakened the king as well, and when he saw the two of them together, he flew into a rage. "How did you get in here?" he yelled. By now it was past 9 o'clock, and the time for the boy to finish his watch. The next watchman came to relieve the boy, and the king asked him angrily, "Watchman, did you see what he did?" "He came up to our bed and touched the queen. They were talking to each other. I saw them. Get him out of my palace. I want you to execute him before dawn. Make sure no one else comes near us in the future. Call the gods and have him executed before dawn." The advice of the second watchman. I'm hoping we can read like another. There's a little small story in here too. If we can keep going a little bit, is that all right?
Yeah.
Because I think the story's pretty good. We don't want to break it up yet. Because it's not. It's actually pretty short. It's not like the Sinbad, which is like 50 pages.
Yes.
This one week, if we have a little more time, we can get through it.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you so much. Now the watchman who had saved the king's life was the boy who had known the king's horse was blind in one eye, and the second watchman was the boy who had known the king's horse had 2 missing teeth. The second watchman said, "O king, it is night time. It is not right to execute someone at night. We should wait until morning and have a trial first. This is the law of your kingdom. Is it not, O king?" "I do not care. I saw what he did. I want him executed before dawn. Why do we need a trial for something I saw happen in my eyes?" "O great king," replied the watchman, "I will tell you a story. Please be patient a while. There is a saying, everything you see with your eyes is false, and everything you hear with your ears is false. You will only discover the truth if you reflect deeply before you act. This is the point of a story I heard while I was studying, and I would like to tell it to you. Please be patient and listen to it." "Very well," replied the king. "Tell me your story." The Brahmin and the mongoose. So I'm going to explain what a Brahmin is. A Brahmin is like the highest class in the South Asian jati. They call it the caste system, like